Hi everyone, it's Jamie Coffey Reynolds on to the next round of reviews for our champion contestants. I'll get right to it because there's a lot of you and I will try not to say lovely as much as I did in the first round of feedback. So let's get started with Adam Blake. Adam, I'm a big fan of your stuff. I just wanted to say I think the prop may have hindered you in telling the story. You had a beautiful skater and a beautiful idea, but she somehow seemed caught by having to hold on to the fabric, and I would have liked to have seen you free up her arms because I could tell by the way she moved from the bottom down with her line and her extension that I'm sure her upper body and arms would have served this challenge a little better than holding on to the fabric. Even though there were some nice moments, I thought the spin was really beautiful and her expression at the end. But I think having to hold on to that fabric didn't help the story or the piece, unfortunately. And I gave you 2 stars. Next, Tommy, also a big fan. And by Adair, beautiful ballet, Anya, beautiful skater. And I just wish there was a little bit more expression, a little more emotion. She sort of was placid in the face, and I wasn't quite sure if that was a direction or if maybe somehow you were caught up in the steps and that you weren't able to direct her on an emotive level. So keep in mind that you need to help your skater find that emotion in the character and in the relationship to someone else, because I didn't quite get that from the work. I did think that there were some beautiful moments, but the big deep intro didn't quite translate onto the ice and onto your skater. I gave you 2.5 stars. Next, Joel Deere. Joel, you know how I feel about your skating. I've always been a big fan, and I've had the pleasure of seeing your work both on and off the ice. It was really lovely. It would have been easy for you to skate this, but I'm really glad that you worked with another skater, especially Natalia, who is beautiful. And I thought that you used your environment really well to tell the story. Of course, as Sun Valley does, it presents the perfect environment for this, and the birds even showed up to chirp for you. But I thought the idea was really, really smart. I think you were great at using balletic hopping moves on the toe picks, but there was still flow. She was always moving, and her expression is beautiful. So I think you carried off the classical really well. And thank you for adding some humor to classical. It doesn't always have to be so serious, and I think that people get sort of droll and heavy when they hear the word classical and ballet. And so I thank you for lightening it up. I think you hit every part of the challenge, and I gave you 4.5 stars. Next, Amber Van Wyck. I am a big fan of yours, young lady. I have watched your work, and I think you're someone that feels things very deeply, and this will serve you well in your work. It already has, and I thank you for letting us in. That said, let's talk about this week. I think you did a really lovely reinterpretation of the work, and thank you for making it relevant, because sometimes that's hard to do. And I thought you did a great job. I think you have to watch your line. You have a lot of modern sort of hip hop, which is great, a nice rootedness, but sometimes in the classical you have to lift out of that and use your torso a little bit more. And somehow some of the story was lost in the skating. I'm not sure if the costume served you well because we couldn't see some of the line. I know it helped you connect to the character, but just consider that. And then on your own skating, and also when you're setting on other people, I want you to think about using things that are solid and making them different. Your bower is beautiful, your layback is beautiful, but I would have liked to have seen you use a gesture or something different to tie it in. Instead of just the arms being up, maybe holding the dog tag or putting a hand on your heart or changing the leg position or an arm gesture in the spin. And that's something that Brian was really good at. He could just take a normal thing that someone did every day and just tweak it to become a lot more effective. So I hope you'll take that note going forward, but you're onto something really special. Okay, I gave you 3 stars. Next, Courtney Bagga. let's see. A lot of your contestants changed the story a little bit or tried to put a new spin on it, and you stuck to the traditional story, and I will say that there is something to be said for being a purist when it comes to storyline. You have a lot of lovely moments in your skating, but I felt like you put jumps and spins in there that weren't necessary. Also, in parts of it, I think you had some ideas, but you looked a little lost, and I'm not sure if that's because you weren't committed fully to the story, or maybe you were just trying some new things, but you just want to always make sure that there's a focus throughout, and if you're going to do something, don't just, you know, poke at it, but really do it. So I would say that also in classic line, you have to watch, if you're skating it, you have to watch your own legs and turnout, really extending through the leg, pointing the toe, and lifting through the chest, and not being in the rink, as we say. Got to think outside of that. But overall, pretty good job. I gave you 3 stars. And next we have Catherine McSwain. Catherine, also a big fan. I just get a really good vibe from you and from your work. I have a feeling that you're just a pleasure to work with, which will also serve you going forward in your career. You chose Giselle, which is, as I said, one of my favorites, and had the great luck to work with Mr. Jeremy Abbott. How fantastic. And I loved your story and your idea, and I think interesting to work with Jeremy, who is one of the best skaters in the world, who isn't necessarily a classical line, but you used you used him, and you used what you had to serve the story and to serve the challenge, which was great. And as a choreographer, that's so important. It's not necessarily about your skating, but who you're setting it on and who you have to work with, that body, that frame, and talent. So I thought it was really well done. There were a lot of gestures that I saw the second time around. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, it reads the first time around, because not everyone has the luxury to go back and watch the work again. Yes, second time through I saw a lot more in it, and it was really quite lovely. There were some beautiful moments, and the thing about Jeremy's skating too, and the tricks weren't even necessary. You could have not done a single trick, but he's so, it was seamless, you know, just to have a beautiful triple in there with holding a beautiful line. And my favorite moment was the end gesture, actually. That crossover fleeting moment was really powerful. And, you know, finding that balance of being able to use those moments but not overkill. So really well done. I gave you 4 stars. Let's move on to Shannon. Shannon, nice intro from Johnny. I also had a nice setup from you with the story, and I didn't see it in the actual performance of your skater. The quality of the video didn't come through so well to me, and so that may have served it, because I couldn't read the emotion of the skater. Again, sort of placid in the face, no real emoting happening. There were just, I think, a little bit of accurate movements in a classical sense, but there was no real flair or finish. It just sort of felt academic, if that makes sense, instead of having a personality and a life of its own. So think about that going forward, and if you're going to set up a story, make sure that it translates. And, you know, for example, like why the double axel, it might have been more effective to have a nice big axel with a nice gesture at the end, as opposed to it being sort of tight and caught. So just, you know, be calculated in how you're laying it out and how you're utilizing the movement. But overall, good job, 2.5 stars. And finally, we have Elisa Sigmund. Elisa, your work is really, really wonderful. I, again, love Giselle, and I love that you chose to investigate working with another skater and you know, sort of exploring what that challenge would be like for yourself and what it was like for her. That's very important as a choreographer, and so I applaud you on not just skating it yourself, which probably would have been a breeze and beautiful to watch, but yes, I think that you did a great service to your work and to her. So I thought the performance quality was lovely. She had a very clear focus in her movement. She knew who the audience was, where the partner was. Really great flow in the use of the space. And also I love that you used our vocabulary as skaters and made it translate in a balletic sense. Every counter, every single 3-turn, every mohawk, it read like a jeté or a pas de bourrée. It was really great, and you used it repetitively, but it didn't feel repetitive. It felt more like a theme, which is used in classical ballet all the time. And so I thought that was really, really special. I gave you 4 stars. So that is it for me. Off to barbecue. I hope you guys have a great 4th of July, and best of luck going forward.